Next up, we're going to ask Tenya Chan to come up. And Tenya's at the opposite end of the spectrum. Is one of the last postdocs who worked with Gilbert Stork.
Not postdoc, graduate student.
Graduate student, sorry Tenya. We'll get it right eventually. By the way, Tenya provided a number of photos that went on the photo posters that you saw.
All right, thank you. It's my pleasure to share with you some of my recollections about the late Professor Stork and his last graduate student. I have a mixed feeling, probably just like everybody here. Although we gather here to celebrate the lifelong achievement of Professor Stork as a chemist and mentor, we do miss him a lot. Professor Stork was definitely a great human being with a great heart. He was willing to help anyone. I started my graduate program in Columbia in 1987. Every new graduate student had to meet with 3 professors before joining a research group. In one of the graduate organic chemistry classes, Professor Stork announced that he was not going to take any more graduate students since he was already 60 years old. Anyway, I made an appointment with the late Professor Stork, the late Professor Bristow, and Professor Clark Steele. During the meeting with Professor Stork, he emphasized again that he was not going to take any graduate student that year. I was quite disappointed at that time. Unfortunately, I met him in the Havenmeyer Hall a few weeks later, and he said that he would take me as a graduate student if I really wanted to. Later, I learned that he was persuaded by the late Professor Bristow to take graduate students for 1 more year, since there were more graduate students than the department could handle without him. And then when Professor Robert Kennedy separated from the chemistry department, Professor Stork was willing to guide the remaining graduate students through graduation. One very important lesson that he taught me and my wife was that never forget to give people credit, and it works for us after 30 years. Professor Stork was a great teacher and would go the extra mile in order to help a student. I remember one time before the science finding year, we were doing research in the chemistry library, and he asked if I knew how to use science citation index. I said that I had not used it before. He said that there was only one set of science citation index in the engineering library, and he wanted to show me how to use it. Despite the campus covered with nice snow, he let me run into the engineering library without his jacket and showed me how to use the paper copy of science citation index. Every professor and student knew that the best time to find Professor Stork was Saturday afternoon in the chemistry library. He spent every Saturday afternoon in the chemistry library reading chemical abstracts just to keep up with the latest development in chemistry. He also read Baustein and Hubenwein methods of organic chemistry. He followed the latest chemistry literature method closely. I remember that the chemistry librarian in Nida at that time organized a training of STN Express, which was the predecessor of SciFinder. The only 2 attendants were Professor Stork and me. Many years later, even after his retirement, he continued to read and fell in love with SciFinder and Baustein Crossfire, or now called Reaxys. He could even point out some errors in Crossfire because from time to time, because the data was entered manually. Professor Stork loved chemical technologies. On Havenmeyer 6th floor, one could find barium GC, Waters HPLC, and even spinning band distillation column. Later, he was the first one to purchase a DNA synthesizer in the chemistry department to make silicon backbone DNA. Professor Stork treated everyone nicely with respect. I think most people here still have fond memories of the pool parties in the summer and the ski trips in the winter. Whenever he took us to the restaurants, he tipped the server before paying the bill. When Professor Stork talked to you, he would definitely make eye contact with you. This polite etiquette worked quite well, except on one occasion. A few months after my graduation, Professor Stork invited me and my wife to lunch. When we arrived at his office on a Saturday morning, he said that he was going to drive us to the Tavern on the Green in Central Park. We were absolutely excited. During the 30-minute ride, we sat in the back of his Ford Probe, and Professor Stork turned his head all the way back to talk to my wife while he was driving. And you can imagine the frantic look of my wife. Unfortunately, that's the last time that he was driving. Talking about cars, Professor Stork has a keen interest in sporty cars. His favorite holiday car had him posted next to a classic Bugatti sports car. And most people have already, as you can see from the video, he had a classic Ford Thunderbird that he had kept from the 1960s to the 21st century. He said that he had purchased tetraethyl lead from Aldrich for the T-Bird when America phased out leaded gasoline. The Ford Probe was his favorite car for many years, although he also had an old Toyota Corolla that he spray painted yellow for other chores that I have even borrowed for moving from one dormitory to another. Well, thing like Francis talked about this morning. No one can forget the self-running wheel on the George Washington Bridge story. So one day Professor Stork was driving on the George Washington Bridge. He saw her wheel passing his car. He was wondering where the wheel came from. It was actually a wheel from his own car. So after that, he called the insurance company to file a claim. The insurance company asked him if he had done any work with the wheel himself. If he had not done anything, then the self-running wheel was the act of God and the loss was not covered. If he had done work on the wheel, then it's also not covered. So guess what? Professor Stork told me that he actually done a tire rotation himself before the incident. But he dare not tell the insurance company that. Well, thank you very much for listening to some of my recollections for Professor Stork. The world has lost a brilliant chemist and a true gentleman. In my PhD thesis acknowledgement, I wrote, I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to Professor Gilbert Stork for his guidance, inspiration, patience, and financial support through my doctoral program at Columbia University. It is my fortune to be able to work under the direction of a creative chemist, stimulating mentor, and most important of all, a great human being, who we should honor him by continuing his legacies. Thank you.